I back the field of thought that it should be considered that the use of teaching children religion as from very young ages in ways of discipline through fear should be considered child abuse in extremes. Why I say this is because it is and is very often psychologically damning depending on the extremity used. It's an effective way to indoctrinate a child, but when done, things like, oh, why can't I do this? Oh, because it's a sin. Why can't I sin? Because if you sin, you're going to hell. Well, what's the consequence of that, And the only explanation you get is, hellfire, eternal damnation, flames, and death, like the most unimaginable torment. That's what you push on these children just to stop them from doing things that aren't always the social morality. The excuse of it being done in good faith is no longer acceptable because we've moved our social morality from the times of the Judeo-Christian era when these rules were written, and they're entirely out of date. It's now illogical to say that permitting in premarital sex will warrant damnation, or being unbaptized will warrant damnation, or being gay, or I think there's a line in the mitzvot that the man who wears the woman's clothes, we know now that those are not warranting of these things. And if you still think that, that's nothing to do with common morality. That's either bigotry or some form of phobia within you. And it comes from nothing good faith. It comes from negative aspects of the human nature. You want to put down other people for your own superiority complex. And religion in the growing up of children really, really sticks more than anything because of the fear associated with it. The things a person learns in a school lesson, say their history or their geography or whatever, they won't stick as deeply within the psyche as religion because, the facts of the Crimean War don't inflict the same, turmoil where you are forced to believe that you need to consider every action with the consequence of you going to hell, And it's like it is so effective that people who manage to sort of escape the constant ideology of it, mature into, their 20s, their 30s, so on, and still have these moments where they may wake up at night, or they may just suddenly realize or think that the potential of possible damnation because, they thought of someone seductively that they weren't married to, or they partook in the consumption of fish or meat on a Friday, these things that we really throw into children's brains so early on, with these dire consequences being the worst thing in literal universal existence as the consequence. It should be considered child abuse because the consequences of this are akin to the actual psychological attacks we do consider child abuse, and sometimes are even worse. There's no argument to say there are thousands, if not millions, of people who have been completely screwed over by indoctrination of religion from a young age. It never escapes the mind, this belief. Even when you reject the belief, the fear that maybe the things you believed in once are going to bring you down, but then the fear that also the rejection of that belief is going to bring you further down is something that breaks the mindset of children. And there's nothing good in the belief, It may give certain people comfort, but when you've gone through this era, there's nothing good in it, and you are forced back into it out of, again, fear. Even if it feels comfortable, you're only comforted by the fact that other people have made you believe it would be uncomfortable otherwise, and you fear for your literal sanity. Because if you succumb, and people do succumb to religious idealization, it literally drives people insane, I know certain people are more predisposed to that, but children, full stop, are more predisposed to that. You tell a child that they're doing what they're doing, and it will take them to, this the most nightmarish place that damages a child. You wouldn't turn around and say to a child, you don't do that, because if you do that, you are going to get stabbed at some point in the future. But it's the same gist of things, because you are giving them a certainty of a painful punishment. It's literal child abuse. Like, it is psychologically damaging and needs to be treated as such, because it keeps going, and as long as it keeps going, it's being accepted and perpetuated, and more people just end up screwed up and ruined for their lives due to the first 16 years of their life being forced, having religious doctrines forced down their throat.